the Sustainability Management Master's Program, you're answering one simple question. Do you care about your future generation? If you care about your kids, their grandkids, then you care about sustainability. And a sustainability manager is someone who has the tools to make people understand how they can contribute towards developing a sustainable world. We have both part-time and full-time students. Our curriculum is 30 hours. Instead of thesis, we have a research project course and a seminar course which provides them with the kind of research background they will need to be successful in their job. But at the same time, sustainability is not always everything about environment. It also relates to the business. They will take a sustainable business strategies course. They will take a project management course. Most of these courses are going to be taught by industry people, the people who are doing sustainability on a daily basis as a part of their job. Any organization that has a large number of employees and has a physical infrastructure, they will have to have a sustainability office. If you have the passion to develop and maintain a sustainable world, come to us and we will help you shape your passion into a career which will create an impact. Co-sponsors, Brown and Caldwell, my good friend and the National Technology and Innovation Leader from Brown and Caldwell, Jim Claffey is here today, and he will introduce today's speakers. Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Tibbs. It's great to be here. We were just talking earlier before you jumped on the call. I think this is our 4th or 5th year in support of the program, and we've been really happy to do it. And I'm glad to bring to you 2 colleagues that you all have not met before, and so they're going to talk to us on a really interesting topic, something that's becoming more and more prevalent with clients across the board. And so if I may, I'll introduce Carla de las Casas and Rebecca Mako. I'll start with Carla. I've got her bio here. Dr. de las Casas is BC's water stewardship leader. She's based in California, as we just heard, has 20 years of experience in the water and wastewater treatment industry, working in reuse and water stewardship. Her experience spans upstream and downstream oil and gas, data centers, petrochemical, algae to biofuel, food and beverage, and municipal type facilities. Throughout her career, she's helped clients develop water management strategies for projects that enhance the reliability, resilience, and adaptability of mission critical systems. She's currently collaborating with clients to address water risks as part of their environmental, social, and governance strategies. And by incorporating facility water efficiency projects in our community watershed solutions, corporations are funding projects that ultimately result in increased freshwater availability and reduced water risks. We'll go on to Rebecca. Rebecca's got 20 years of experience. She's Brown and Caldwell's data center and mission critical sector team leader. She serves as a client advocate and advisor in identifying, evaluating, and developing reliable water supplies and wastewater solutions, as well as developing programs for freshwater footprint reduction. Her focus is on developing partnerships with watershed stakeholders to deliver projects that make a difference in how we manage water, where we work, live, and play. Rebecca is a business leader and client service manager whose work is focused on baseline assessment of water use, alternative development and evaluation of projects for cost-effective water management, reduction of consumptive water use, and water reuse. Her experience spans a variety of industries, including data centers, electronics, mining, upstream and downstream oil and gas, petrochemicals, forest products, and food and beverage. And with that, I am proud to introduce my 2 colleagues. So ladies, please take it away.
Thank you, Jim. I assume that given our long relationship, with this particular forum, that, everybody knows, about Brown and Caldwell. So perhaps we don't need to spend too much time talking about, what our company does, but, know that we do a lot of things within the environmental engineering realm of services. Water stewardship is just one of them. And we are particularly focused on this presentation on the data center sector, as well as some other of our manufacturing clients that we serve and really enjoy working with them.
Carla, if I could, I'll just chime in and say that there are new students on the line that haven't met us in the past. And so just for, Dibs knows us well, and some of the students that have been there for a couple of years maybe, but Brown and Caldwell is a national environmental engineering consulting firm, And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say we love schools like Stevens Institute of Technology that are producing great engineers and scientists who to support the kind of work that we do. So we are certainly proud of that connection and relationship. And Dibs does a good job of putting his students forward and presenting them to us when the time is right.
Absolutely. And thank you for the support. Like you are sponsoring this seminar series for the last 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carla. Sorry about that.
No, it's we needed to go through that. So what we have planned for today, it's really talking a little bit more about the drivers for ESG or water stewardship commitments and those investments. A little bit of terminology, you may start hearing terms like net positive water impact, and what does that really mean in real-time applications. We talk about high water risk watersheds in US and also from a global perspective, because a lot of times, even though Brandon Caldwell is more of a US-based firm, the work that we're doing from a water stewardship perspective has global boundaries. We do get involved with a lot of folks that see either in Europe or other areas, and we're constantly collaborating. So our leadership when it comes to this topic is not limited to just US. We talk about the private corporations role, and the impact that they're having in the watersheds across US and the globe. And then we spent some time talking about, real case studies from the data center sector, as well as the manufacturing examples. And then we're just going to leave you with some water stewardship trends in terms of like where the changes that we're seeing through this space, how are things kind of evolving, where do we think we're going? And then we'll have time for questions, hopefully some really good discussion based on your interest in this topic. You should have, I don't know if this is like, live on your side, but you should have a link to a poll EV. We just kind of wanted to start with getting to know a little bit more from you and like knowing what aspects of sustainability interest you the most. So if you can take a minute to hit that link, if it's not working for some reason, then just go ahead and put a response in the chat. We just want to hear from you. What interests you the most from this program and this topic?
The link is not live, Carla. Like I don't. Yeah, it's not. But again, we can copy it and paste it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, polev.com.
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and just like put responses in the chat. Is this really
yes, that might be better? Yeah.
Be meant to be a little bit of an icebreaker and really get to know your areas of interest specifically, if you have some.
Yeah. So, folks, like if you cannot get that link to work, just go ahead and write in the chat.
Nope, there it is.
Oh, somebody has already gotten to that. Okay, that's good. I'm slow.
Water conservation and resiliency are obviously topics that we focus around. I would say that both Rebecca and I have a lot of experience in terms of helping our clients reduce their water footprint. And really that topic is just extending to resiliency. Just planning for the future. Yeah. Seems like we have a little bit of a delay, but the responses are coming through. So I say social responsibility. I'm assuming climate adaptation, corporate change. Okay. So maybe we just leave it like that. Thank you for chiming in. Okay, so we were just going to start with a little bit of definitions. Obviously, the work that we're doing with water stewardship is driven by this ESG investor term, environmental, social, and corporate governance. This is really 3 broad categories that we use to measure the non-financial impacts of particular investments and companies. And you can really think about this term also as some form of corporate social credit score. There's a lot of history, where we started back in 2004 to where we are today. But one thing that has changed, it's really the magnitude of the investment that corporations are making. It used to be that corporations will make a donation to an NGO to invest in a nature-based solution, working with a farmer that had impact in the watershed. And those investments have increased in magnitude in such a way that those large investments are trickling more accountability, more transparency, more scrutiny. So that's a very interesting change in the history of those investments. What we have also seen is that it's a sharp increase in the CEOs making those ESG-driven water-related commitments that are being public. The focus has always been on carbon and energy, and it's not until recently that we have seen more of water coming front and center into this conversation. Back in 2011, you could see that only 20% of the S&P 500 index companies were reporting on sustainability. Today, you can argue that almost all of the companies do. So that's a very important trend. Whether or not those drivers for making those commitments are driven by business continuity or the stakeholder pressure, those commitments are there. From the business continuity perspective, we see climate risk, which is also an investment risk. Whether or not you're operating in an area of water scarcity and that is threatening your operations, or whether or not it's cost management, what you're seeing is that there's a lot of stakeholder pressure over issues like biodiversity and water management that are kind of increasing and intensifying. So corporations are under a lot of increasing pressure to take more responsibility. So one thing that we have seen is that, depending on where you are in the country and where you're speaking, whether or not you're talking to the mining industry or some other sector, ESG may not be the most attractive term to discuss or bring up, but social responsibility is a term that it's widely acceptable among all of the different geographic conversations or sectors that we are having. So there's a lot of pressure. It's both a challenging time as well as an exciting time for all of these private corporations. When it comes to the state of the market, CDP has released a lot of really good information in terms of, the state of the market and at a global state. So one of the recent reports back in 2022 said that there was an 85% increase in disclosure over the last 5 years. We have also seen about 2/3 of the company that are targeting reduction or maintaining their water withdrawals, and then also the business case for action, right? There is the cost of inaction, it's about 5 times more than action. So there's a lot of business case and a lot of studies that have shown, I think over 2,000 studies that have shown that the impact of ESG on equity returns in the business case for really making these investments. And one other thing that we have seen is really, even though there has been a lot of investments focused on carbon and energy, there has been water, it's kind of coming at the center of that conversation, and really the link between climate change and, water, like how do you invest in water and you're also tackling some of these climate change issues that we're seeing. Commitments, there's a lot of corporation commitments out there, a lot of examples, some of our big corporations that we serve, but also on the municipality side, some of the commitments that we have seen from, like, for example, DC Water, which are agencies that are very innovative, are also you see in these trends. There's different types of commitments. Most corporations focus on water efficiency, and you'll see that through the examples that we'll share here in a minute. When we talk about water efficiency, we're talking about reusing, reducing, recycling water. And then there's different definitions of what water you're reducing, whether or not it's the water that it's coming in as freshwater input into your facility, or whether or not it's the water that you're consuming in your operations. So there's a little bit of nuances in terms of how you're defining those commitments. The other thing that you'll see is that the innovators are the ones that are pushing the boundary to go outside of just reducing their facility water footprint. They are making commitments that are more bold in nature. So they are using terms like net water, positive impact. And in order to achieve this, you really have to go outside of your facility boundary, beyond just reducing your water footprint, and investing in watershed solutions. So these are projects where you go outside, and you partner with either the utility or some other NGO to impact water reductions within the watershed. So the term of net positive water impact, and what does that mean? It's really addressing three dimensions. We talk about availability or quantity. We talk about, like, how many people don't have access to drinking water. We talked about quality, and we talk about accessibility. And even though we're defining all of these three terms or these dimensions, when it comes to the job or the work that we're doing with water stewardship, whether or not the communities don't have access to water, it's either because of a physical constraint or because of quality constraint. Either way, it's an issue of accessibility. Like, we want to improve those conditions so that the communities and the watersheds have a more healthy standard. From a global perspective, the CEO Water Mandate, which is one of the leading NGOs working in this space, and they have a water resilience coalition who has defined 100 priority basins. This is something that they're working on, and again, it's based on these three dimensions. So the colorful map here shows all of those 100 priority basins. In the US, they have more basins, but they are starting with just 5. But this is a slowly work in progress that they are working throughout, and really working with corporations to invest in the different watersheds, having champions for each of the watersheds and trying to move the needle in terms of corporate and collective action. From a water stewardship perspective, the approach that we follow is that we work with the corporations to define what is their water story. So whether or not you're working with a beverage company, they have a very strong relationship with water because water is part of their product. Whether or not it's a bottle of water or it's a bottle of a soda, that is a very close relationship to water. In the case of data centers, most of the water, potable water that they consume is in their evaporation system from the cooling system that they use to cool the data servers where they operate. So they have a very intrinsic relationship. They really, almost 98% of the water that they're consuming is in the cooling system. They have very little demand for potable water for any other needs because they don't have a lot of people working on those data centers. When we talked about making commitments, we can help our clients kind of establish, what does that commitment can look like? Are you talking about reducing water footprint? Are we talking about water neutral, water positive? How far do you want to push the boundary? Are you a leader, or are you somebody that wants to just follow the trend of the industry? And then once they have made a commitment, we help them through the execution of that commitment. So, the first thing that we do is help them identify whether or not they have operations in watersheds that are considered high water risk. And there's tools that you use for that. We can talk more about that later if folks are interested, but we help them, identify within the watershed, which are those reputable partners that we want to work with, which projects we want to invest in, how to prioritize their budget and their schedule so that they are making progress towards their goals. Facility optimization, this is pretty basic, but this is the starting block for everybody. They have to define how much water they're using and where are places for improvements. So we help them identify those water optimizations within the facility footprint and reduce risk in their operations. So we help them build a plan that could systematically evaluate the opportunities that could result in predictable and measurable outcomes. What we're really interested in is going beyond that. You put your house in order, you have reduction in your water footprint, you do as much as you can. But what we have really shown is that the investments that you can do outside of your facility boundary have a better return on the investment. Because if you think about it, within the facility footprint, you can invest all the way into zero liquid discharge technologies so that you are squeezing every droplet of water that you can. But there's so much higher cost when you go to that extreme. When on the other side, you can be putting money into investing within the watershed for the maximum impact of the community and the watershed. And those returns of the investments have been higher. So when we go into a watershed, those partnerships can look very different. It could be like working with an NGO and a farmer to change a crop that uses less water, or to not be planting anything, stop using that land for farm. All of those things have a positive impact into the watershed because you're using less water, or you're using water more efficiently if you implement more efficient means of irrigation. But it could also mean like working with the utility partner, the same utility partner that serves water to the operations. It could be like investing in an aquifer storage and recovery project that the utility is working on. The corporation invests in that project, which has benefits for both indirectly for their own operations, but primarily for the community. And we'll share an example here shortly about what does that look like. But because the market right now, it's very dominated by the NGOs and the nature-based solutions that they are implementing, we wanted to discuss how working with the public sector and the utilities can be of benefit as well. So what we are looking at in that case is instead of partnering with an NGO, we're going to partner with a utility that could have a very impactful water infrastructure project. The corporation on the other side has an ESG goal, and they're looking for shovel-ready projects to fund. Identifying shovel-ready projects have proven to be a big challenge because a lot of utilities or NGOs don't really have those projects that are ready for investments, or they haven't really defined the projects in such a way that could meet the metrics of the corporate water stewardship program. But what we do is that we work with both. We work with the utility to help them define the project in such a way that we can define it in the metrics that matter for the corporate program, so that we can identify projects that have an enduring value, that have an impact on the community and the watersheds where they are operating, that are critical to meeting that ESG goal. One other benefit that the water infrastructure projects may have is that they have larger volumes. Nature-based solutions are a really good part of a diversified portfolio. They have different risks, but they're usually lower volume. So when we're working with corporations that have goals in the billions of gallons per year, it's important that we start investing in projects that have a larger volume benefit. And then the other piece of this is that everybody's looking for money to implement those projects. There's a lot of state and federal grants that utility have access to, but the private sector funding can help them see that project in terms of that investment. They can leverage that funding to attract other sources of funding. Oftentimes, the utility may use that interest from the private corporation to say, there is support for this type of project, and then we can prioritize it over some of the other projects that they may have in their CIP. So I think we're now going to jump to giving you some examples specific to data center sector clients and how are they going about that progress.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, we thought we'd talk through first what are the commitments that have been made for some of these leading data center companies, and then we'll give some examples too. So what some of these projects look like that they're implementing to make progress towards their goals. So first off, AWS, Amazon Web Services. So they've made a commitment to be water positive by 2030. That's something you'll see as a common thread amongst each one of these companies. There are common threads across all their commitments, and then there are some subtle differences too, which are kind of interesting. So we'll hit on those a little bit here too. So water positive by 2030, and how are they going to get there? And these are in their words, and you'll see that they're worded a little bit differently, company by company. But it's first off, water efficiency. What Carla was explaining about getting your house in order inside your fence line. So using water as efficiently as possible. Using sustainable water sources. So that means non-potable water being used wherever possible, reserving that potable water only for domestic purposes. Water reuse in communities. And what that is reuse of the wastewater. After the water is used in cooling, it is often of a water quality that is fine for all kinds of different uses, including agricultural irrigation. So where that's possible, they'll look for opportunities for that. And then lastly, the water replenishment piece, and that's the outside the fence line to offset their water footprint. So Microsoft, similarly, water positive by 2030. How they're getting there is similar too, but also a little bit different and nuanced. So they are seeking to reduce their water footprint, means the same thing as water efficiency. They also have pledged to increase access to water and sanitation services to 1.5 million people by 2030. So that's something different. Replenishing more than they consume. That's back to the replenishment and the water positive by 2030. They also have a big initiative on scaling water solutions through innovation and digitization. So using some of their in-house tools to apply to not only their own operations, but to operations of their customers that are buying cloud space on their data centers. And then lastly, advocating for effective and innovative water policy. They've been active there as well. Next up. So a couple other companies, just for example, so Google, they've made their water positive commitment one step further than the others, in that they're pledging to replenish 120% of their water use by 2030. But you see the similar themes here in terms of how they're going to get there. Managing water use responsibly, so being efficient with their water, decreasing their water footprint. Investing in community water security and healthy ecosystems. That's something that's a little bit different. And then using their data tools to predict and prevent water stress. And then lastly, Meta, again, with the water positive by 2030, and how they're getting there is minimizing water use, so increasing efficiency, restoring local watersheds, and working together. And by that, they mean the collective action that Carla touched on, where they have operations within a watershed, looking to see who else is working in that watershed and how they might work together for greater benefit. So just a few examples. This first one is from AWS. Their progress, first we can talk a little bit maybe about progress towards their goals. So you see here 0.19 liters per kilowatt hour water use effectiveness. That's what WUE is. And that's how the industry measures itself in terms of its water use efficiency. Industry-wide, there hasn't been any benchmarking done in many years, since I think it was 2016 was the last time. And at that time, the industry average was 1.8 liters per kilowatt hour. So there's been significant improvement across all these companies. And that has come from technology innovation, pushing the limits on what the hardware can handle in terms of temperature and humidity. It's been a number of factors that have contributed to the increase in efficiency and the decrease of WUE. So all good things. So progress there, and 96% of their spent cooling water in Oregon. They have a number of data centers in Oregon, and they're reusing all that water by discharging it to canals that the farmers then can use for irrigation. And they made progress towards their replenishment goals as well. Here we're in the billions, 0.63. And a number of their data centers, 20 this last year, were using recycled water. So that's treated sanitary wastewater reclaimed for use in cooling. And then here's just an example of one of their replenishment projects that they've chosen to invest in. So this was in India, and they gave money to the State Women's Development Corporation, to the government. And so that corporation gives out small loans for toilets and piping systems to get infrastructure to people's homes. And so it's person by person, household by household, but it allows folks to access clean water and sanitation that otherwise would not have the means to make those connections. And Microsoft, here's how they're doing towards their progress and their goals. 9.2 billion gallons of replenishment currently in progress. They also have been working on access to clean water and sanitation, and claim to have achieved that with over 500,000 people so far, and continuing to innovate through water reduction technologies. So changing the cooling technologies themselves, looking at air to water generation, which we've seen in a few locations, pretty interesting new thing in the industry. And then again, working collectively at the base and scale. So this example is another project from India that they've decided to invest in. And in this case, they partnered with the Nature Conservancy to improve water quality and storage capacity in this Lake Sambagam. The project is nature-based treatment system using a constructed wetland and improving the health of the ecosystem all around. And then Google, their progress, so 1.3 billion gallons. And all these statistics too, by the way, are from their sustainability reports. So if you're interested in any aspects of these, beyond the few little highlights that we've included here, you can read more there too. 82% of their freshwater withdrawals are from regions of low water stress, and that's important. It just speaks to their choices in terms of where they're siting their data centers to try to avoid those locations of high water stress in the first place. And then 23% of their water use is from reclaimed water. So again, using a lot of recycled sanitary wastewater. And then this example I thought was a pretty interesting one, saving water in LA, one leaky toilet at a time. So they partnered with a startup that has a sensor that can sense leaks in toilets and also in sinks. And so they've implemented this as a pilot project in large apartment buildings. And so that's where they hope to implement it, not just in residential homes, but in larger developments where they can really have an impact in terms of the number of leaks detected. And then once they're detected, then it would send a note or a message out to the manager of the apartment building that could then come and make those repairs quickly and stop those losses. And then lastly, Meta's progress. So they're down to 0.2 in terms of WUE and have achieved 1.9 billion gallons of replenishment annually. And this project that we're highlighting here is in Prineville, Oregon. This is a project that they've chosen to invest in a very water scarce area. Prineville, Oregon was really challenged with water scarcity and declining potable supplies until this project was implemented. But they partnered with the city and researched where could be a possible location for an aquifer storage and recovery facility. And they found one. It was some miles away from where the extraction wells were, but they found a suitable aquifer and supported the city in developing this project. And it's now extracting water year round. So year round, that water can come out of the extraction wells, be treated, and then be injected in the recharge wells and then drawn upon in the summer months when it's needed most for cooling and for agriculture.
Okay, so besides data centers, we also wanted to take maybe a minute here to talk about a beverage industry example, because if you go back and trace, the history of water stewardship investments, it really started with the beverage industry because they were more susceptible to this whole social responsibility, whether or not they had operation across the globe and they were using so much water, depleting watersheds. So they have really come a long way from in the last decade or so in terms of their investments and where they place their priorities. The data center significantly investments really it's taking advantage of the lessons learned from the beverage industry and certainly has a lot of investment power to make an impact on watersheds. This example is with PepsiCo. PepsiCo's positive program focuses on 3 pillars: positive agricultural value chain and positive choices. Now, if you talk about water positive, you could not be water positive unless you're focusing on the value chain. So that's why they have this pillar of agriculture, because you really have to tackle that water consumption throughout your products, throughout your raw materials, to be able to say that they are water positive. Their goal in terms of being net water positive ambition by 2030, again, you'll see some of the common threads: using less water within their facility boundaries, but also investing outside in the watershed to replenish more water, and then also the providing safe water access goal. In terms of their progress, PepsiCo also has goals related to 2025 on their direct operation. They're doing pretty well there, so that they decided to expand to 2030 to include also their third-party manufacturing facilities. So the metrics that we're summarizing here from their sustainability website, shows progress towards 2025 as well as 2030. PepsiCo has both the beverage side as well as the food and snack. We're only showing here the beverage side because I think that those are easier examples to discuss. In terms of water stewardship, water use efficiency, they are close to meeting their goal of 25%. In terms of water use efficiency by 2030, they have a much aggressive goal where they are saying for every liter of product that they generate, they want to use 1.2 liters to make that liter of product. So that is a very efficient process. Right now, they're about 1.7 liter per liter. So they're working towards that goal. In terms of replenishment, they are about 45% of their more than 100% goal because they're water positive. And then they also have these goals of adopting the AWS standard, which is one of the popular frameworks out there in terms of water stewardship. By 2025, they have about 61 facilities that are in the process of adopting this standard. And then they have the goal for safe water access, which right now they're about more than 80 million versus the 100 million goal that they have. The last thing in terms of examples, we were going to share a short video that kind of shows their partnership with one of the utilities in Southern California. What you'll see here, if you're familiar with water issues in the West, is that a lot of the utilities in Southern California are relying on imported water from the Colorado River Basin, which is a very stressed watershed. So they are trying to implement projects that help them stop the reliance on imported water and be more drought resilience and more water security for their own operations. So we're going to share a short video. It's less than 3 minutes long, and then we'll come back with more discussion after that.
We're here at the Leo J. Vanderland's facility, and this facility is an advanced water treatment facility which produces about 8 million gallons of purified water on a daily basis. We use about 5.5 million gallons of that water at our seawater intrusion barriers to keep seawater from intruding to the groundwater basins. But the rest of that water, we have the opportunity with this new inland injection well to inject it into the groundwater to replenish the groundwater in this area. This project was made possible by a grant from PepsiCo, and Brown and Caldwell was helpful in bringing us together with PepsiCo because they saw that we had collinear visions. We were able to take the grant from PepsiCo and construct this inland injection well to help replenish the groundwater in this area right beneath our feet.
PepsiCo launched PepsiCo Positive in 2021 to take sustainability to the next level and to transform the way that we do our business.
Brown & Caldwell has been supporting PepsiCo's water replenishment program by identifying, vetting, and prioritizing water replenishment projects, particularly in the areas of high water scarcity where PepsiCo operates.
So we receive treated wastewater from the plant next door. We take that a step further by sending it through our microfiltration process and then through reverse osmosis, after which it is sterilized with a UV sterilization system and is chlorinated, which brings it back up to drinking water standards, and then it is pumped into the ground with our new injection well.
The really exciting thing about these partnerships is that their visions align. Partnering with the Water Replenishment District of Southern California enabled long-term sustainability water security for their local communities, but it was also critical in the advancement of PepsiCo's goals.
We consider this collaboration a success because it aligns really well with our water replenishment goals and WRD's objective for drought resilience and water independence.
You know, we live in a semi-arid area, and we import a lot of water from Northern California and the Colorado River. When we have an injection well in this area, that means we can store our own water right here in our own community, which is safeguarding and protecting the groundwater in this area for future generations.
The last thing that we wanted to share before we wrap up and start, maybe a discussion piece is just sharing some of the trends that we have seen in the industry, starting with how the programs are right now very focused on water volume benefit. So the programs or the projects that the corporations are investing in may have other co-benefits, such as water quality improvement, biodiversity, or even carbon emissions reduction. But because all of the programs are focused on water quantity, then all of these other benefits get maybe qualitative, mention in the reports, or they may struggle with the quantification. But that's, one of the things that it's coming up is trying to incorporate ways in which we can quantify these co-benefits and also take credit for them as part of the programs. There's a lot more investment in basin diagnostics, AI, satellite data leverage when the corporations are investing in projects all around the globe where there may be a lack of monitoring or a lack of partners that could be monitoring the progress on all of those projects and the benefits that they could have. We're also seeing a lot of co-funding strategies, right? Where we are maybe starting with the private sector funding that can attract other private sector funding or state and federal grants that you can use to match, and then get more projects invested on the ground and really impact those communities. Throughout all the different global forums that we participate, the recurrent theme is really collective action, because we are dealing with such big water challenges across the different watersheds where we operate. There's no way that one single entity can make real progress. You really need to partner and really go across the aisle and reach to other folks that do different things. So an engineer like us could reach out to a water policy person and really try to work together to address some of these challenges and try to incorporate strategies that could get these projects into the ground a lot faster. So hopefully that was all of interest to you, and you have some interesting questions for both Rebecca and I.
All right.
Take any.